The year was 1919. World War I, a conflict of unprecedented brutality, had finally ended. Millions lay dead, victims of a war that shattered empires and redrew the map of Europe. From the ashes of this devastation, world leaders gathered in Paris. Their mission to craft a lasting peace and prevent such horrors from ever happening again. At the heart of this endeavor was the Treaty of Versailles, a document designed to ensure Germany, deemed the aggressor in the war, could never again threaten the world's stability. The Palace of Versailles, once a symbol of French power, became the stage for this monumental task. The Allied victors, led by France, Great Britain and the United States, held the power. They aimed to punish Germany, but also to create a new world order where diplomacy, not warfare, would resolve disputes. However, the treaty they drafted, instead of fostering reconciliation, would sow the seeds of resentment and ultimately contribute to another global conflict. The Treaty of Versailles was a complex document, but its core elements focused on limiting Germany's power and exacting retribution for the war. The most controversial of these was the War Guilt Clause, Article 231. This clause placed sole blame for the war squarely on Germany's shoulders. It was a bitter pill for Germany to swallow, forcing them to accept responsibility for a conflict they saw as having multiple causes. Beyond accepting blame, Germany faced crippling financial penalties. Reparations, massive payments to compensate for the war's destruction, were imposed. The sum, totaling billions of dollars, was intended to cripple Germany's economy for generations. Adding to their woes, Germany was stripped of vast swathes of territory. Alsace-Lorraine, rich in coal and iron ore, was returned to France. Germany's colonies were seized and its military was severely restricted in size and capability. The terms of the Treaty of Versailles were met with shock and outrage in Germany. Many Germans, even those who acknowledged the need for peace, saw the treaty as a dictated peace, a diktat, imposed upon them without negotiation. The War Guilt Clause was particularly galling, a national humiliation that fueled resentment towards the Allied powers. Public opinion hardened against the treaty, and protests erupted throughout Germany. The newly formed Weimar Republic, already struggling to establish itself in the aftermath of war, was left to contend with the treaty's devastating economic and social consequences. The stage was set for political instability and the rise of extremist movements that would exploit the widespread anger and resentment. Section 4. The Seeds of Discord. The Treaty's Legacy of Instability. The Treaty of Versailles, far from securing a lasting peace, created a breeding ground for future conflict. The harsh terms imposed on Germany had disastrous consequences for its economy. Burdened by reparations and territorial losses, Germany spiraled into hyperinflation and economic depression. The social fabric of the nation frayed as unemployment soared and people lost faith in their government's ability to provide even basic necessities. Politically, the treaty created a vacuum that extremist movements, fueled by nationalist rhetoric and promises of restoring German glory, were quick to fill. The Nazi Party, capitalizing on the widespread anger and despair, found fertile ground for its message of hate and resentment. The seeds of future conflict were sown, taking root in the fertile ground of economic hardship and national humiliation. Section 5. A Flawed Peace. The Treaty of Versailles and the Road to War. In the aftermath of World War I, the world yearned for peace. The Treaty of Versailles, intended to prevent future wars, tragically laid the groundwork for another global conflict. The treaty's draconian terms, particularly its impact on Germany, created a legacy of resentment and instability. While the treaty did establish the League of Nations, an international organization intended to resolve conflicts through diplomacy, the League proved powerless to prevent the escalating tensions of the 1930s. The Treaty of Versailles stands as a cautionary tale, a reminder that peace cannot be built upon punishment and retribution. By failing to address the underlying causes of World War I, and by sowing the seeds of future resentment, the treaty ultimately contributed to the outbreak of World War II, a conflict even more devastating than its predecessor. The lessons of Versailles remain relevant today, urging us to seek peace through understanding, cooperation, and a commitment to addressing the root causes of conflict.